Hi everyone! We wanted to come on and do a video together today. Um, we wanted to talk about triggers and how triggers come up in our personal lives and in our relationship together, and talk about how we view them and how we work with them. And I feel like if I keep saying the word triggers, it's going to start sounding really weird.
What does that
But
even
I'm gonna
mean?
say it a lot in this video probably. I think anytime you have a social media presence, sometimes you might, like, I don't know, convey a certain image or people get a certain idea of you. And especially when you talk about, like, all the cool things you're doing or all the ways that you've grown or healed, people can sometimes get maybe a romanticized idea of what life is like. And so we definitely wanted to talk a bit about the fact that neither of us are angels. Neither of us are perfectly healed, and our relationship is not perfect. We fight and we get upset with each other. We get triggered a lot.
Yeah, I mean, we spend the majority of our time in a little tiny trailer together, and before that, it was a little tiny van. And like when you have not a lot of space, like we have a stressful life. We travel all over the place, and sometimes there's challenges that you don't foresee, and so it can be really, really difficult.
We have
And
5 businesses between the two of us. One
yeah.
of them is together. Like,
Hmm.
yeah, we have a lot going on. And so, part of, I think, what we try to recognize, and we talk about this a lot when we're doing our Soothe workshops, is that stress and trauma are actually an innate part of life.
Hmm.
There is no avoiding getting stressed or experiencing trauma, and in fact, we're not better off if we have a stress and trauma free life. Now, of course, there's the point of diminishing returns. I don't mean to romanticize people who have had really extreme experiences of stress or trauma in their lives, but it is also very, very natural to have those experiences. And so we accept it as just like these kinds of things are just a part of life. We each have, our own experiences of trauma. We all have stress in our life, that occurs on a regular basis. And so we really try to view it as just part of something, part of the human experience, part of our, a whole experience of being alive in the world.
Yeah, and one of the challenges with PTSD specifically is people who suffer from PTSD tend to want to avoid stressful situations and things that trigger, old feelings and old patterns. And the problem with that is that if you do put yourself in a position where you're avoiding those things all the time, you kind of get into a feedback loop where you get into a state of avoidance and overwhelm,
Mm-hmm.
because you don't have you're not titrating it. You don't have the ability to deal with challenges as much because you're avoiding them all of the time.
Yeah, yeah.
Um, you
No,
just don't have the skills anymore.
yeah. No, like I said, the feedback loop.
Yeah.
Because ultimately, stress and trauma should be resolved in order to come back to a healthy, regulated nervous system, right? We shouldn't be in these constant states of stress and trauma. Stress and trauma is a normal part of life, but we need some experience of resolution with them. And if that doesn't happen in the moment, right? Like sometimes, and in fact, there are plenty of people who have experienced very traumatic events and don't develop PTSD, actually, and it's because they're able to actually resolve it at the time. Either, they're able to uh, you know
Gain agency
yeah, gain
or
agency, like fight off or defend themselves from whatever was going on, or they were protected, or they were really supported well after the event. Like they were able to resolve the experience in some way. And so that's, obviously the ideal situation, but that doesn't always happen, right? And what we also really try to recognize in our personal lives and in our relationships is that, when you aren't able to resolve stress or trauma in the moment, what triggers are opportunities to release and resolve those experiences at a later time, if we couldn't before. And so a big way that we think about triggers as they come up for us is like, oh, these are actually opportunities. They're not things to be afraid of, they're not things to avoid, they're actually openings.
They're learning situations.
Yes, yes, it is an opening. It's an opportunity to actually have a new experience and gain that resolution that we weren't able to before. Do you want to say anything else about that?
Um, no, well, I feel like I mean that's part of the game, is changing your perspective and changing the way that we think about things and the way that we look at things. And it is really challenging in the moment when you're experiencing that stress. It's challenging for me when I feel like I'm not being heard, or whatever else is going on. Like, it's challenging for me to take a deep breath and to go, whoa, hang on a second, like, why am I so worked up? And that's really why mindfulness is so important, as a practice, is because it activates that part of your brain. It activates your insula, which is the part of your brain that recognizes your thought process, and that can actually, like, step back and look at things objectively, instead of with all of the emotion.
Yeah, so I think, having a regular mindfulness practice is going to help you be more equipped or have more of the skills to deal
Mhm.
with triggers when they come up in the moment. And when you're having a distressing or activating experience in your body, be able to, in that moment, recognize it not as something to be scared of or avoid or run away from, but actually to move towards and open up to and experience as, again, a gift, an opportunity,
Mhm.
a potential.
Oh yeah, and just like any other exercise or any other practice, the more you do it, the better you become at it.
Yeah.
So yeah, it's just important to practice that.
Should we talk about how we try to deal with triggers in the moment when we are feeling triggered?
Sure, go for it.
Well, sometimes it's just a mess. It doesn't work out very well. But I think that we both try to use that recognition of what is happening in the moment, and ultimately, like, no matter how the trigger is manifesting, it is really a fear response, right? It is a fear response. Oh, hi Cheyenne, thank you. um, so
Oh, I think grounding is the most important part. Knowing that you have the tools where you can ground yourself and going, okay, hang on a second, I'm feeling real worked up. I got to take a deep breath, or I got to, like, put my feet in the dirt, or whatever it is that you got to do to get yourself grounded. Like, just recognizing that there's a need, and then having the tools to use, in order to do that grounding is pretty much step number one, I think.
yeah. Yeah, so getting grounded so you can really be present with this opportunity that is presenting itself. And I think that what I was kind of getting at with the recognizing it as a fear response
Mm.
is also to recognize that it's actually a very vulnerable state. And I think a lot of us, when we get triggered, we get really uh, irritated or angry or explosive or uh, maybe kind of erratic, like
Hmm.
it expresses itself sometimes in these very big and dramatic ways.
High beta.
Yeah, yeah,
Beta brainwaves.
and it's really an expression of fear. And I think that one thing I try to do is I try to really acknowledge I'm feeling afraid right now. Like, I use that phrase a lot if we get in a fight or if we're triggered together. And that actually helps me drop out of this defensive state and get more into the core of what is really going on a nervous system level. Is that whether you're in fight or flight or freeze, like, it's all fear, really, when it comes down to it. And if I'm able to say, I'm afraid right now, that provides more of an opening to, like, go actually, like, into the wound that is being expressed.
Yeah, I think either of us being able to be vulnerable in those moments is enough for the other one to usually kind of, like, break out of the cycle as
Yeah.
well, and we co-regulate, and we go, okay, hang on, we love each other. Let's figure this out.
Yeah.
And I feel like that's part of having a healthy relationship where you can depend on the other person, is
Yeah.
you do co-regulate like that.
And co-regulation is really like, what do you actually need in that moment to resolve the situation? Like sometimes there's something I need to do, right? Like, I need to like step away from you, or like turn my body away from you for a moment. Like I tend to get physically overwhelmed, where like I need physical space. And
I need to sigh real big.
yes, and yes, you need to take a really big sigh, which then triggers me. but but if I'm able to sometimes step away, which is something that like we're not often able to do when we're in a situation that's traumatic, right? Like that actually helps me resolve whatever's coming up with that trigger, because I'm able to take agency and do something that I wasn't able to do in past traumatic situations. And sometimes it's not going to be something in yourself. Sometimes it's going to be something that you need with your partner or the person you're with, right? So sometimes like I'll say like I need to hear this from you. Like I need to hear a reassurance about this, or a validation about this. And maybe that's something that I didn't get in a past traumatic experience. I wanted validation, I wanted reassurance, and I couldn't get it. And so again, it's an opportunity to resolve that. And so we can get in those moments what we couldn't before.
Healing old wounds.
Yeah.
Hmm.
Great.
It's good stuff.
Do you want to say anything else?
Um, no, I mean I feel like you pretty well covered it. It's just the recognizing the trigger is not even necessarily something that's happening right now. It's an old program or an old
Yeah.
reaction or an old habit that I've gotten myself into,
Mm-hmm.
and having you there saying, hey, let's be vulnerable for a second, gives us an opportunity, gives me an opportunity to examine whatever it was that was. And sometimes it's, oh, my dad used to yell at me about this thing, or
Yeah.
like you know whatever, and having that new experience and applying the current tools, and breaking out of the old pattern
Yeah.
is really how to heal that stuff.
Yeah.
And just knowing that I have a safe person, a safe place to do that with is really, really valuable, and I really appreciate you.
Oh, thank you.
Yeah, thank you.
All right. Hope this was helpful, you guys. We would love to hear more questions and comments about this. Yeah, I'll just wrap up by saying I have just 1 or 2 more spots for intakes in August if you want to get in on my caseload. We also have our online Soothe workshop coming up in early September. And signups are open for that now if you want to reserve your spot. We're going to be going really in depth into all our nervous system regulation techniques. If you're feeling like you really need to kind of reset your whole relationship with your nervous system.
Also, if you need meditation coaching, we offer meditation coaching through Soothe Online. Mindfulness, focus, quiet
Yeah, you
mind.
actually have a couple openings for clients right
I do
now.
have a couple
So
openings for
yeah, if you're looking
clients.
for more specific coaching around like a meditation or a mindfulness or a grounding practice, just like we were talking about in the video today, if you're wanting to really get concrete around what that would look like for you, that's what Mike does. So yeah, get in touch with us. And if people have questions or things that they want me or us to do more YouTube videos on, please comment and let us know. Thanks, everyone.